Okay. I'd like to call the Conservation Advisory Council to order, November 4th, 2020. And why don't we start off by calling the roll?
Ellen DeVero.
Here, sorry.
That's all right. Amanda Matusik. Jeannie Orr.
I'm here.
Tina Lee.
Here.
Chelsea Ratner. Jill Connell. Catherine Harder.
Here.
Ashok.
Here.
And Dart.
Present.
Okay.
Okay, great. We don't have any minutes to approve this month. We'll look at them next month. So I would like to move to privilege of the floor. And we have Rosemary would like to speak to us. So please feel free to take the floor.
Hi, Dart. Again, are you like on every committee? Great. He's a great volunteer. I see a lot of the same people over and over again. Thanks for having me tonight. I've been visiting some of the advisory committees to talk about an initiative that the town board just recently approved. And that is to add student representatives to some of our advisory committees. And we're going to pilot the program with 4 advisory committees, including Complete Streets, which is where I saw Dart just the other day, and your committee. And what are the 4? It's Complete Streets, Tree Council, Climate Smart Task Force, and Laura, help me out. What's the 4th? The Conservation Advisory Council, which is what I'm in right now. So, so with the 4 groups, we've approved the addition of a student representative, and that is, as I explained previously in the last meeting, I participated in. It's sort of to give our youth an opportunity to have an experience, to participate in local government. As we know, our youth has been activated. Certainly that's been a wonderful thing to see over the last few years. And this is another opportunity to provide, opportunity for them to learn and to lend their voice, their valuable voice to the conversation. Hi, Amanda. So anyway, that's been approved, and we've been working on a standard application, which I shared with Laura, and I know Laura says it's in pretty good shape. Eligible folks will be juniors and seniors in high school. You need to be a Niskayuna resident, a junior and senior, or a senior in high school, and or be enrolled in a 2- or 4-year college or grad school or vocational school. Let's see, I'm gonna make the tour of all. This is the 2nd committee I visited. I think I've got two more meetings, and Laura and I talked about the dates. I think they're coming up next week, right, Laura? We think maybe the 9th and the 12th. And then we're gonna put out an email blast through the town, and also post it on the website to procure interest. The application will actually come to the particular committee. So you guys will review the application, which will be straight. It'll just be some biographical information, and then an expression of interest, what talents these folks might bring and why they're interested in serving on the committee. And then you guys would make the recommendation about a student representative to the town board, and then the town board would, approve that designation, and you'd have a student. And today, actually, I connected Laura with Anthony Malizia at Niskayuna High School, who is responsible for overseeing all the clubs and activities at the high school. Because the other thing we thought would be great, in addition to having student representatives on some of these advisory committees, to give them an experience and to, again, hear their voice in these issues, is also there are a lot of students that are looking for volunteer opportunities. And so instead of Laura spending all her lunch hours planting and mulching and doing all the great things that she does because she cares so much for our community. It would be nice to enlist our youth that are also interested in a lot of the things that your and other committees are involved in, and give them the opportunity to do that. So connected Laura with that. There was, an immediate response that students are looking for those opportunities. So Laura will follow up with that, and I think it'll be, a great collaboration. So that's sort of the broad overview. I just wanted to introduce that. Laura will, again, get into the application process with you guys. I did send out a press release last week about this, but for some reason, people are very focused on other things other than student board representatives in these committees and Niskayuna, and I got no interest. Although I did try, maybe after, the mess of what's going on right now with the elections, maybe someone will be interested and follow up. But I did try and put it out to the papers too, as another avenue to get the information out there that we are doing this and that we're interested in students participating, etc. So, all right, I've spoken a lot already. Does anybody have any questions or anything? Anything I can answer, anything I can add to this conversation.
Thank you very
one
much.
quick question, please.
Go
This is Ashok.
Hey, Ashok.
You mentioned, first of all, I think it's a great idea. Getting the, I've been talking to a lot of union students who are Niskayuna residents, like, hey, things are happening. You should come and speak up. Like, I think this is a fantastic idea. The question I had was regarding the age. You mentioned vocational school. So let's say there is a 40-year-old person who is going to nursing school for a career change, say, would they be eligible?
So that's a good question. We didn't put an age limit, but I think our intent was sort of to have that youth voice, because what's been happening is, I saw this, is that we'd have openings for these committees, and then of course all these adults would submit their resumes, and how is a young person supposed to compete, with that? So we want to sort of reserve this spot for young people, but we didn't put an age designation. So that, and by the way, Laura and I talked about making connections at the college level, and she mentioned that you would be a great connection at Union. So we hope that you will be able to use, your avenues that you have available to you to put out the information about, it does have to be a Niskayuna resident, but it can be, someone who's attending Union that might be interested in serving. And again, we're starting out with the 4, but we hope you'll help us get the word out to Union students, Niskayuna residents that are Union students, about the opportunity to apply for these. And again, our hope is that we'll have a really good experience, and so far everybody's been very positive in terms of committees saying, yeah, that would be great. It would be great to have this youthful voice, and then we can expand it into other advisory committees, and maybe we want to have more, right? Why limit to 1? Perhaps we can, expand that. But again, this is just sort of to pilot. I'm very excited to do this. We did it while I was at the school district, and having the student board representatives at the table with the school board was invaluable. And it was probably my favorite part of serving on the school district, the relationship and hearing their voice, and, and getting their feedback, and having them, watching them grow, right, and developed. I think I said this at the last meeting. Most of the student board reps I worked with over the 5 years that I was there, that we had that position, a lot of them had a variety of interests, and so many of them at the end of the experience of serving as a student board rep ended up, having interest in public interest, and sought that out, and public service became a big thing for them, and it was wonderful to watch and support. So again, it's just another opportunity to give our students the experience. This is their town as much as it is ours, and they should have a voice in you know, in the things that go on here. And this is an opportunity to do that.
Well, I think it's great, Rosemary. Hey there, and just yeah.
Hi, neighbor, who I haven't seen.
Right now we're like 4 doors down.
Right, right.
For how long are you thinking? Like for a year? Is it like a 1-year term?
So the appointment is for a year. That's in the resolution, but it's renewable, just like all, you know, all these others might be. And with youth, with these students in high school and college, that maybe that makes sense. They have an experience, they serve a year or two, and then they, you know, they're moving on to some other thing. But it'll be renewable if that. And again, I would certainly encourage you guys that if you have a good experience, that you let the board know, you know what, we want more of this. We'd love to have more, you know, more students. And then, you know, we can facilitate that. Anything else, Dart? I'm sorry. I think you were gonna say something and maybe I interrupted.
No, I was just going to say, again, I think this is a really good initiative. I think it provides a lot of opportunities for both the boards and more importantly for the students or the young participants. And I think it's great. I look forward to having a representative on our board.
Yeah, well, you're a great group. I'm sure they'll enjoy the experience. Does anybody else have any questions or anything? Okay, I'm going to tune out because I'm in the middle of dinner serving. Jeannie knows I do late dinners, so I have something in the oven to get out to serve my family soon. Thank you for having me. Ellen, I've been thinking about you lately, so I hope you're doing okay, but my heart's with you. All right, everybody, thanks again. Thanks for your service and commitment to making Niskayuna the best it can be. Appreciate it so much. And thanks for having me.
Thanks, Rosemary.
Thank
Enjoy
you
your
very
delicious
much.
dinner.
Thanks, Rosemary.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Do we have anybody else for privilege of the floor?
I didn't have anybody noted in any email or anything.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, let's move on to the environmental assessment referrals. The first one we're going to look at is EAF 2020-07, 2627 Troy Schenectady Road. It's the old Kroger house, and it's a subdivision off Shannon Boulevard. And I believe Joel is here. Are you here, Joel?
He is. He's muted though. Oh, there he is.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, I was wondering if you would be willing to give an overview of the project to the committee?
Sure. Laura, do you want to pop up the plot plan? Can you expand it a little bit, or?
Yeah.
That's probably pretty reasonable. Okay, Darth, the property in total is 3.89 acres. The starting from the north, lot number 1 is 35,622. 2 is 21,320. 3 is 19,400. And 4, which is the former Craigier house, is 34,211. So that totals, excuse me, 2.54 acres. The blue portion is part of the project, and this is going to be deeded to the town of Niskayuna. So if you see on the lower left, the plot plan, currently it was a past some kind of water feature, but the town owns that little piece right there, and it's kind of a well-known piece for a police speed trap. So be careful. Or people park there and they walk along the my property along the edge of the cliff overlooking the Elisha Kill, and they keep walking. Okay, and bang. This portion here, we extended the Niskayuna portion point right there where that CT Mail flag is, okay? And I encourage people to, on a nice day, to walk along the path. It is a beautiful walk. And I actually walked down. I saw 5 deer the day I walked down there. And overall, previously, we had a little thinner slice because you could see on
Joe, you're cutting in and out a little. Is anybody else having a hard time hearing him?
Yeah, it's hard to hear.
I'm on my cell phone. I should get a camera and a microphone.
That's better.
Yeah, previously the piece of land was a little thinner, but you can see from those topo lines that it was like a cliff going down to a creek in the bottom of that feature. Yeah, so Laura's like, highlighting where the creek is. So we extended that line to the right, and I walked it the other day, like I said, Laura, and that's a real nice slope down to the Niskayuna property. And then you cross that little creek on the Niskayuna property, and you're into the Leishkill Preserve. I just forgot the name of the entity. Oh, Nature Conservancy. How could I forget that? Yeah. So the Nature Conservancy property. Now, if we can back up, Laura, to talk about the driveways, okay? The Craigie property, I mean, my intention is to try to save it. I'm going to try to stabilize it, maybe put a couple of new main beams in it and jack it level, and hopefully I could sell it. I don't have the drive right now to restore it myself. But this is the old plot plan, Laura, but the new plot plan has the driveway coming off of Shannon.
This one?
Yeah, it's probably that one.
Yeah,
Let's
it
see.
is. Okay. Sorry
Yep.
about that. I think the one I was showing is the one that was in their packets, though.
Mhm.
Yeah, Mike walked the property with me last week. We both didn't realize, we thought we got stood up by the rest of the gang, but apparently an email went out at 6:30 in the morning that I didn't see that postponed it. But
And that
and
was
I know,
just for everyone, that was the Architectural Review Board. Mike from the
Yeah.
Architectural Review.
they Mike liked this, and I know Laura, you and I talked about it, and Clark too, that this is a pretty good idea. I mean, there's a pretty steep bank, on that hill, but I could use that fill in the drainage feature, going in front of the other lot, so it won't be wasted fill. And I need fill to fill in the existing driveway too. So this makes more sense, for that house. Hopefully it'll make it viable enough. And as a note, 2421 Troy Road, which I owned as a part of this package, I had sold that, and I keep going by, and the people are actively working on it, trying to restore it. So hopefully that'll turn out pretty good. As for, I think the only tricky lot now is lot number 1, which has the steepness of the slope. But Mike and I talked about, I would build a house that didn't have a huge profile. I'd build like a ranch with a full walkout, looking down towards the creek. I think I could design a real nice house to fit that lot. And you can see that in the area where the house is, it's really not that steep. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, say 4 topo lines. So that's a drop of 8 feet, which is kind of a normal walkout, drop down. So it's really not that bad. And these houses, a lot of the neighbors, the neighborhood concerns are, we're losing a forested region. They thought that when they purchased their homes that this was open space or green space that was the part of the subdivision. Unfortunately, that they were kind of duped. But to make up for that, I think it's a good compromise to have a 1.35 acre, beautiful forested park land that is now a legal, or will be a legal access to the Leishakil and to the Nature Conservancy land. So I encourage everybody to kind of walk that. It's a beautiful walk, and it's going to be a real nice addition to Niskayuna. And when I talked to the neighbors, I told them that, these houses are set, quite a ways back, further than the houses across the street. And that, I'm going to try to maintain as many large trees as possible. And that's kind of about it.
Hey,
I think we position the driveways. We kind of position the driveways around the existing large trees. I'm open, obviously, to moving driveways too. If we, once I stake the site, I'm going to stake the corners, and I'm going to stake the houses, and see if the driveways make sense the way we drew them. So we may redraw them based on, the existing trees on the lots. I think that's about it, Laura. Am I missing anything?
Joel, this is Clark. I was just noticing with the topo lines, is it fair to say that those lots get a little easier to build on as you get further away from Shannon Boulevard?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, so I mean, that might be one nice factor to discuss, that the houses will be set back a fair distance from the road. And maybe if you keep some of those mature trees, that gives a little shielding to the neighbors.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. The neighbors will see that too. It'll be more vivid when we put the lot corners in and we stake the house too, so, the neighbors' concerns that, their kids use that property and they walk their dogs on it and so on and so forth. It is private land,
Right.
So, that just goes over my head. It's like, you don't want me using your backyard to walk my dog and have my kids play, throw a football around your backyard. It's private property, but now they're going to have an actual 1.35 acre park. That's a beautiful park, and it expands the Niskayuna green space to the north. So it's a contiguous park now. So it's not only 1.35 acres. It's now you could put a nice parking lot, off of Route 7, and people can park there. Like if they wanted to access the Leishakil from, say, Shannon Boulevard, what are they going to do? Park in the middle of the street,
Right.
or park on the green grass, for the green space? No, they're not, so now this is actually a, parking area, and I'm such a nice guy, Laura, that I'd be amenable to putting some stone down in that area and even grading it, to make it a nicer parking area. Right now, it's kind of a muddy parking area, unofficial mud hole right now.
Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask Joel?
Joel, quick question, please. I'm sorry if I missed this. Could you talk a little bit about the creek that goes through your property and how that will be impacted?
Yeah, the creek essentially won't be a part of my property any further in this plan. Laura, can you bring that back up? The creek, you put a 50-foot buffer on the creek, and the creek now will be wholly within the Niskayuna town of Niskayuna property now.
And like what impact will the actual construction have on the creek?
Zero. I mean, with a SWIP, you have to put up during construction, temporary measures to prohibit any, off-site drainage, from impacting that wetlands, right? So my plan is, with the small amount of trees that I am going to cut down, we mulch the trees, and I use that as kind of a natural barrier. The town allows it if I mix a little dirt in with it, so that is my SWIP measure. And so I would put that at the border. You can see the fronts of the property. You can see the drainage feature that goes south to north, and it gets more dramatic on that lot number 1. But the other lots, like maybe that lot 3, obviously I'll put a 24-inch, 20-foot long culvert under the driveway, and grade it a little nicer. But essentially, the drainage design will be the same. It'll flow from south to north. It'll feed that creek area. And it doesn't show on this drawing, but the creek is essentially created by a stormwater sewer discharge on the Niskayuna property. So the creek really flows through the town of Niskayuna green space. Oh, in fact, it's not shown on this property, but if you look at the topos just north of my property, you could see the topo ends like kind of a V, and that's where the discharge is. So essentially that drainage feature is all in the town of Niskayuna property.
Okay,
So
thanks.
So it won't be affected. I mean, it'll be forever wild. I mean that area is mowed though, but the area is wilderness down. This new portion is, wild forest, and so is the creek, the creek area. It's not overgrown or anything by any means. I mean, it is a real nice walk though.
I have a question. I noticed on the EAF form, the property poorly drains. Could you speak to that a little bit?
I said it poorly drained?
I think you did. I'm looking at it now.
Oh,
He did,
100%
and you
of it-
guys don't have this in front of you, but he did do, because it changed. The original application was for 5-lot or more
Yeah.
subdivision, and now it's a 4-lot subdivision. So he did fill out the more updated, modern, short environmental assessment form.
Okay.
but when I think of poorly drained, I think of clay type soils, but I didn't dig any test pits yet, Art. So
Okay.
I don't know the soils on this site yet. I dug up near the garage, but it was probably an area where there was an old garage, is my guess, because the ground was like hard as a rock.
Sure.
Yeah. So, judging from the drainage, I'm not really sure. I think it's granular though, but with that steep of a slope, I wouldn't think that there would ever be an issue of directing the water down towards that creek,
Right.
And come to think of it, the cliff area in the back going down towards the Leishkill looks like it's a shale formation actually. So that would be hard soil then. But there is no pocket wetlands, because it's also,
Yeah.
it's a gentle, it's a slope, there is no pocket.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks.
Joel, you'd mentioned that you are interested in protecting as many large trees as possible by possibly putting them on the driveway.
Yep.
Can you speak a little bit about that? Would you be open to getting input from our tree council?
Oh, without a doubt. You know, what I plan to do, Ashok, is again stake the four corners of the lots, okay, and then stake the location of the house, right? And then, you know, with construction of a house, I mean, you have to clear like 25 feet around the foundation, okay? So, you know, you're going to clear the area of the house. And then the question is, do you put the driveway on the left or the right to protect any possible trees? And you can see with the lot, or the house that I have on lot number 3, I put a front driveway in. The other two I put side drives in, you know, and that was kind of in anticipation of saving more trees. So, you know,
Joel, you're breaking up. I'm having a hard time
Oh.
hearing.
Oh, sorry. I have to stake the lots though to actually, you know, in the house locations to actually figure out what's the best way to save as many trees as possible. It was kind of funny because the one vocal neighbor said that his daughter gained an appreciation of trees having the land across the street from her, and she ended up going to Syracuse Environmental Science and Forestry. And I said, oh, that's funny. I went to ESF in 1973.
And Joel, like I just did some quick math, and I want to make sure I got the numbers right. The total property area is 3.89 acres.
That's right.
The amount you are ceding to the town is 1.35 acres.
That's right.
And I did a quick calculation that comes to about 35% of your property that you're ceding back to the town Forever Wild.
What a nice guy, huh?
Well, I just want to verify my calculations. That's all.
No, I'm saying that kind of facetiously because I actually had to do it because it's land conservation, but I like doing it. It's a nice park.
Okay.
Hey,
Thank you.
Laura, I have a question for you. As far as Route 7 being a state road, would the town have to apply for a curb cut if we put a parking lot in there because the use was different, or do we know anything about that?
You would, but there's actually already a existing curb cut and a break in the guardrail too. I mean, that's where the police set up their speed trap and the people park now. So you could probably
Yeah,
actually
they could definitely reach out to the state, but Joel's right. It's not like a virgin curb cut. It's like there's something there already that has been there. We think that it used to be an old pump station for the water that was then abandoned when like a full water line went through. And there's a decent road there right now.
Well, I was thinking about this. If Joe were to go forward with the project here, and move the driveway from lot 4, there'd be conservation of curb cut on Route 7. That could be certainly a bargaining chip for the state to make sure that happened.
Oh yeah, but no, there's already a curb cut, like Laura said. So that's why I drive over and check it out. I mean, it is a nice. It's going to be a great little walk, you know.
Yeah, Joel, but there would still be one less curb cut if you move the driveway down to Shannon Boulevard, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not going to go in and take the curb cut out, you know, because somebody someday could want to have like a U-shaped driveway. You know what I mean? I mean, somebody could restore that driveway and say, you know, I want to have an entrance on Route 7 and an entrance on the Shannon Boulevard, you know. Because actually that house, I took it down because it was dangerous and falling down. But there's a side entrance on the house, and there was a side porch, off the driveway. So that was kind of like, when you had company coming over, I presume that you would use the, that side entrance as the main entrance to the house, I mean, you're not going to come in the back door through the kitchen, you'd have your guests come either through the front door or through that side door, So if somebody restores the house and restores that porch, they're still going to have a little bit of a driveway on the right side of the house. Or at least at a minimum a walkway. And Dart, I tried to get a curb cut on my lot next to Tall Oaks, and the state requires a $5,000 deposit. You have to block off one lane of traffic and hire, with cones 250 feet up the road and 150 feet down the road, and you can only do it for a certain time of day for so many hours. I mean, it's a huge undertaking.
That's why I asked. I know the state can be pretty picky about curb cuts.
Oh my God, they're ridiculous. It's really hard.
Do we have any other questions for Joel or anybody else on the committee?
Hey, Laura, can I ask you a question about procedures for the planning board now? What's the procedure for a minor now?
So the planning board has a tentative resolution scheduled for sketch plan approval and classification of a minor subdivision, and calling for a public hearing in the end of November.
Okay.
And then, based on the outcome of the public hearing and wherever the planning board stands, they would either call for final resolution or, I don't know how much more, you may need to ask what your level of soil disturbance is and see if you also need to attach a sheet to that subdivision. I think you probably do for soil erosion and sediment control, whether it's just a single sheet because it's under an acre or whether it becomes a SWIP, all that stuff. But really for a minor subdivision, it's, sketch plan approval, classification, public hearing, and then final approval of a minor subdivision. Those are the 4 main actions.
Okay, so I'm just wondering what I should tell Nick to do. So you're saying we don't need a full SWIP, but we need a soil and erosion plan?
That's actually something that he would have to figure out. If you're between a half acre and an acre, then you need a soil erosion and sediment control plan, which we typically see as one page that's attached to the subdivision. If you're over an acre, then you need a SWIP. It's the soil erosion and sediment control plan. Some people call it a basic SWIP, right? Between a half acre and an acre. Yeah.
Okay, so we need a SWIP then, you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I would think with if you add up the area that you're being disturbed for adding the houses and the driveways, probably.
Yeah, because I want to maintain that drainage feature. Like I said, the lot 2 and 1 will have probably culverts, and the other lot 3 won't need a culvert.
Yeah. So, and because the EAF came in late, we don't actually need to take action tonight. The CAC could just give you direction on things that they would want to see or concerns that they would want to address before the next meeting. And then they could look at the final updated EAF and if you had any further engineering for the December meeting, because the planning board wouldn't take action until December anyway. So.
Yeah. All right.
So what I'd like to do.
Go ahead.
I would just like to ask the committee if we have any concerns about what Joel has presented that we discuss them now.
I have a question about the kind of the border between the homes and the new land conservation area, the park.
Yep.
Are the homeowners going to be made aware, or is it going to be somehow apparent to the homeowners that, okay, once they pass this whatever line, property line, that land beyond is, not for like putting in a dirt bike trail or their own garbage
well, they,
dump for their leaves, or
I
that
think
kind of
we
thing.
looked at it. I think we looked at it from both standpoints. Like, you're a resident and you have a town park in your backyard, so, people are walking the Leisha and particularly on lot number 1, Clark and I said that resident would probably have to put a split rail fence up in their backyard, to make sure that people aren't, walking up on their deck or something, you know what I mean? To kind of delineate, this is the town's land and this is the resident's land, Yeah, I mean, somebody could put up a stockade fence if they wanted, that's their property, But in terms of dumping stuff, there's nothing to stop that. I mean, the residents across the street all complained that they're losing this green space, but really it was just a personal dumping zone an active personal dumping zone for their grass clippings and tree clippings, I mean, it took me 3 days, three guys to clean up debris, But there's really no way to stop, people from raking their leaves and tossing them over that nice cliff,
Okay.
Would there be any kind of marking there, Joel? Because that's a good question. Having walked the property, there's very dramatic slopes, and oddly enough, the border between the lots and that land for the town is going to be right in the middle of the really flat part of all these properties.
Yeah.
It's not like it's right where it drops off suddenly. It's right in the middle of the flat part.
Her concern, though, Clark, is like, those 3 or 4 houses could start dumping leaves on the town in the town park. But Laura, how would you enforce that? I mean, do you see that in these neighborhood parks anywhere else, like say the one off of Niskayuna Drive or something? I don't think I see that.
It varies, but I think that when people's homes are adjacent to town of Niskayuna property, over time they do tend to encroach. One thing that we could do is see if we could put, a split rail fence up along the boundary on actually the town side. So the town would own the split rail fence, over time. And that would be the delineation of that LC zone.
Yeah. See, I'd be amenable to that here, Laura. I'm not totally against split rail fences.
Yeah, I mean, because I agree with Clark. Like, it's kind of hard to tell in that forest, like, where it would end. If you put that split rail fence up, then people won't be wandering into their backyards when they're walking towards the Leisha Kill, because it's kind of an inviting forest if you have that split rail up there. And then also, it is kind of steep in the back. So, like, just, for whoever owns that home to have that split rail so that, they can tell their kids not to go past the split rail or whatever, it might be helpful.
Yeah, if you want, I can add that.
I think that would be helpful because I do think over time, generally speaking, when there is not a clear delineation of private property and it's the town is the owner, the town doesn't actively, aggressively, patrol its lot lines to make sure that everybody's staying in their yard. And they don't.
Historically, that has been a problem with the town, with people grassing over the right of way, the town right of ways and stuff.
I agree with it here, Laura, but I still don't agree with it on Kelts on the buffer zone. So I reserved the right to disagree on Kelts, but agree here. So I'll add a split rail fence to that back of the property lines, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good addition.
I agree. I think that's a good addition.
Do we have any other questions for Joel or any other comments we want him to look at before he comes before the board again?
In the letter, it says that a walk is scheduled for tomorrow at 5 p.m. Are CAC members permitted to join that tour walk?
It's actually at 4. If we wrote in 5 p.m., that's my apologies. That's wrong in
Oh,
our
yeah,
agenda.
yeah, okay. Thursday, November 5 at 4 p.m.
Oh,
that's-
okay.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, I
okay.
could certainly have written it, or we could have written it wrong, but yeah, no, you can always come. That meeting is not like a tour of the site. That's more of a like, let's get the neighbors together with the developer and see if they, can feel heard, and if there's anything the developer can do, to kind of ease them into, development across their property. And some of the things that we want to look at are like the trees and the driveways and just things like and we talked about this, I think, a little before, would like to see the land preserved along Shannon Boulevard instead of adjacent to the Leishakill Road. And that's just because they felt when they bought their homes that land was going to remain treed. But unfortunately, I think that as far as the public service goes, it's the reason that the LC buffer is, along the Leishakill, and we talked about this before, is to protect the Leishakill from, yards and chemicals being dumped on yards and seeping into the Leishakill and all those things, that having a buffer to the Leishakill is really important to keep those waters clean and healthy. And and also the natural trail there, if you walk it, the natural way that you could get the public, from that area, from Route 7 to the south side of the Leishakill, is definitely up along that ridge. Like, you wouldn't be able to put public area along Shannon Boulevard, with like driveway easements through it and then have the homes in the back. Like, it's not really a great place to have the homes pushed back so far, because it really is a cliff. It's great for people who are walking, and are used to the Leishakill. The Leishakill has a lot of cliffs. It's definitely not the greatest for a residential home. So, like, I think the most public benefit and the greatest and highest best use of that property is to continue to maintain the buffer to the Leishakill, and have that public benefit be behind the homes. But that's really hard for the neighbors. So the meeting tomorrow is really just to like talk through all of that. You are welcome to attend. But it's definitely more of we understand that you don't want to see this in your neighborhood, and what can we do to help?
I
Yeah, but
also,
that's-
Joel, if somebody wanted to walk the property, you would not object if somebody walked it on their own time?
No, not at all.
So,
Like Art, what I was saying last time is the one day I was out when we were cleaning up the clippings, right?
Mhm.
There was like 6 different groups of people that parked at that site and walked across the property, And I was kind of laughing with my guys because, I put up a bunch of posted signs, and they just walk right past the posted,
it's
Walk
hard,
that
it's
trail
hard to
along the
block a
back you're
herd
talking about,
path.
though, right? You're talking about the path in the back that they were walking on, right?
Yeah, they parked in the Niskayuna spot, and then they walked across our property down to the Leishakill,
It's
Yeah.
apparently a good fishing area.
Yeah, it looks it. I was going to bring my pole.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments for Joel? I'm just looking at the time, and we have other EAFs to consider. Joel, did you want to say any last words, or?
No, I think so. The takeaway is I'm going to put it in a split rail and see anybody there tomorrow at 4:00.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. And shall we move on?
All right, thanks a lot. Hey,
Okay.
Laura, I'm not on anything else, am I? Tonight?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good.
Okay,
night.
let's move on to
Good night.
EAF 2020-08, and that's 2721 Balltown Road. It's the old Aqueduct Animal Hospital. And we have a site plan review and a use variance to look at. So Laura, if you want to put the drawing up and we can talk through it.
I think is Alex on the line? Alex, I
Oh,
know I
Alex,
sent.
are you on the line?
I actually didn't let him in though. Do you see him, Craig? I might send him a quick email. Dirk, the one thing I was thinking about actually is that for subdivisions, I think it's better when you're calling for the public hearing to actually make the secret determinations different than site plan. I'm wondering if you guys would be comfortable going through the EAF or if you do want to look at it one more time on the Troy Schenectady Road property.
What's the committee's pleasure?
I think more time would help.
Okay, that's fine.
So here, I'll share my screen. So we looked at this one at the last meeting, but we reserved judgment on site plan because we wanted to at least see a sketch of where the parking would go. And so here's the new sketch.
Laura, what page is it on the packet?
29.
29.
So this is like the best sketch of what he would do with the parking here. So, oh no, sorry. I just closed it down instead of making it bigger. Oh, sad story. I'll just open this up. This is really the one that we're looking at anyway. So, here is here's Balltown Road, right? Here. This is the existing parking lot for the vet. And what he's talking about doing is getting rid of the parking spots that are so close to the road that are kind of problematic because there are these huge open curb cuts, turning them into grass. There's this kind of, I mean, essentially, this is asphalt from here to here. And that's really problematic when you're getting in off of Balltown Road. Balltown Road is just tough anyway. I don't know if, well, I think obviously a lot of you guys, I take a left on the Balltown Road between 4 and 5 o'clock every day. It is so hard. I have literally sat there for like at least 3 minutes, maybe even more. But so anyway, having these narrow curb cuts would definitely help so there's not the confusion of the cars going in and out, on Balltown Road, which is just tough. So he's talking about right now, instead of this being asphalt from here to here, this would be filled in with grass, this would be filled in with grass, and then he would take this portion, this kind of carve out portion here, and turn that into grass and probably put a sign that would, whatever he decides to name this apartment complex, this apartment building, could have a little sign out front. And then he would have 4 parking spots here. This would essentially be a road. And then 4 parking spots here.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So, is it just one way in and one way out so that you don't have people? Is it? I guess
It's not labeled that way, but we could definitely say we would want that for sure. That's not too hard. Like all you're really doing is painting arrows in the pavement.
I just was thinking if there's somebody's trying to get out on one side and someone's trying to get out on the other side and they're going in opposite directions, or if somebody's trying to turn it, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, no, you could definitely do one way in and one way out. And then because it's 6 apartment units and this would be 4 and 4, which would only be 8 parking spots, his plan would be to add 4 here. And one of them would be handicap, and that would allow the 2 parking spots for each apartment unit per code. The only thing that isn't really being followed is that our code likes to see one of the parking spots to be covered. but covering a parking spot in this instance might end up being kind of more detrimental to the visual appeal of the building. So I don't know. And then again, this is what he talked about. So you're adding a little bit of impervious here to get the 4 parking spaces, but then all 3 of these buildings get removed and graded off. So grass, 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 and then removed and graded and grassed back here.
I like that plan. I think that improves it quite a bit. All that.
I like
So,
the
Laura, you said
plan
that
as
you-
far.
So I was just gonna say, you said that you'd like to have a cover, but that's not something you require.
No, so because it's a non-conforming use, I mean, it gets reviewed kind of in conjunction of what you would normally see for a multifamily, apartment unit, requirement, which is 1 covered and 1 uncovered. But like, if you used to build these spaces, and put them covered, you're gonna have to build some kind of a structure right there, which, I mean, you guys jump in. Like, I'm not sure that aesthetically that's gonna look that great, because you can't tuck it behind the building. You can't. I don't know. I think that in this
Yeah.
situation, because it's a non-conforming use, just having the 12 parking spots is probably good enough. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree. I walked the site and spent some time out there, and one of my concerns, the house on the south, there's arborvitae trees there, and there's a really good buffer there. But the house on the north side, even though it's far back, it's pretty far away from where he's going to be developing. If you put a covered structure there visually, I think it would significantly impact that. So I sort of agree with you, Laura. There shouldn't be covered parking spaces unless he was going to build a traditional garage in the back of the property or something, but I just don't see that. The other question I had, though, was, is he taking down any, I know there was a couple of small trees right by the edge of the existing parking lot. So would he be taking those down, or?
I think you do have to lose that one tree. There's like
Yep.
one kind of like a crabapple tree right here. But all the other ones I think are allowed to stay, especially like the mature ones that are actually over in here. I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys have been by, but a giant tree came down over here. It's enormous.
Yeah.
The poor little thing tipped over. I think it was like growing into this chain link fence. And so it probably had some instability inside it. And that big, I think just during this last couple days ago windstorm, like there's a huge tree that's down over here. But generally speaking, all of these mature vegetation that's kind of between the building and Balltown Road can stay. There's one tree here that you have to lose. And then the one thing that I would probably recommend would be landscaping along here, because you are adding these additional parking spaces and this is a residentially zoned lot to the right. So if you're adding more parking spaces for the future, like I would think that it would probably make sense to do just some kind of a landscaping plan right along here to augment any of the existing vegetation.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. If he's taking down the one tree there, he should put some landscaping on that north side of that parking lot. And whatever, I don't know if you even need like a line of trees or a hedge of trees, but just naturalize it in some way.
Okay, can I just ask some like dumb questions? So that back structure back there that he's taking down, that's in the back. Is that where the hospital part was? Like that X, the first X that's closest to those parking lots? What is that building?
The hospital was actually in the first floor of this building. This was the existing kennels. So all of these are really kennel buildings. This is a big kennel building when you're out there and you're looking. But there weren't any medical offices in here. So this is all really just kind of outdoor dog storage areas with runs.
All right, but none of that footprint would be what you would turn into like covered covered parking.
He's not proposing to put any covered parking.
It's funny that you bring that up, Ellen, though, because when I was out there, one of the planning board members asked him about that, and I actually walked over there with him and the planning board member, and we looked at it, and it doesn't look like it would be really easy to do at all, the way it's structured.
Okay, because I mean, we do live in the Northeast, and I mean, it would be, you know, I would prefer it to look nicer, but if I was going to live there, I would want covered parking. But anyways.
No, yeah, we thought about that, and
Okay.
I don't think it can be adapted well.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I think it's just old, and the roof line would have to be changed completely. And David and you looked at that, I thought pretty thoroughly, because we were hoping that you could just retrofit it and literally like pull the cars under the existing roof. It didn't look like you could do that.
So once those structures are taken down, like what happens to that space? Those structures marked with the X.
Yeah, so it would just get graded and leveled and then probably replanted. We could ask for again, like if we're asking for just naturalization or some vegetation along the new parking spots, we could also ask for, maybe just a little bit of landscaping or more planting back there where the structures are being taken down.
Yeah,
That whole-
some kind of native trees or something like that.
Yeah, that whole area surrounding that structure behind it and on the north side is pretty much grass. Sort of a field until you get about, 2/3 through the property just before that lake, and then it's wooded. I'm looking at a different drawing, I think, Laura, than what you're presenting.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to ask them to plant back there. There are no neighbors. They're going to be looking that way or.
Because we talked about this when we looked at it the last time. It's kind of a field until you get to the pond. Here's the pond right here. So this is all kind of a field, and these are all the structures that would come down. So I think that this would end up looking like kind of a backyard, like where you could put like picnics and whatever. Kind of nice.
Happy to see that it's getting used for something else.
Okay, so do you guys want to go through the EAF real quick?
Sure.
Sure, I'm ready.
Okay,
Laura,
let's do it.
I guess I was just going to throw out, I know he's using the existing kind of parking lot area, but he's going to have 8 cars parked right off of Balltown Road all the time. I just wondered if there's anything he could do to make it a little more residential in appearance. That's just my 2 cents, that especially from that aerial shot you just showed, that whole front part is just a huge parking lot.
Yeah, that's why I think it's important, like on his plan, that he's narrowing that down. So, because like these parking spaces would get converted to grass, and then this whole U shape would get converted to grass, and that should help, I think, a lot with with this giant sea of asphalt that you have right now. He would make this grass, and then take this huge chunk right here out and make it grass.
Can we require him to plant, screening trees or something that shields it from the road a little bit more? I'm just not thrilled by that. That's a huge parking lot to me. That's just my opinion. But.
I agree. I think the parking is very close to the road. It's just, is there any chance of him moving it toward, back from the road at all? Even more than you're suggesting?
I mean, we could see if he could lose like maybe one more parking spot, so it would be 3, and then 6 back here. But the more you change the pavement, the more you start to get into those stormwater regulations, and then you may end up having to do water retention and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Which, you know, I think that probably, like, if, you know, you guys, you know, can recommend anything to the planning board really here, but adding trees or landscaping here or something so that there's that buffer between the parking lot and the road, certainly, I think you could ask for that.
Yeah, how far is that setback from the actual Balltown Road, you know, to where his property line is? Do you have an idea?
No, not really. Is that
I'm
in
looking
the
at the
other
map
plan?
and I can't quite figure that out, but I guess what I'm saying is right now, when you go and look at that, the whole thing just looks like it looks like it's just connected to Balltown with a little bit of grass and a sign in an island in the middle of it. So I think anything that he does here will help to make it look more residential. Yeah, that's the plot I'm looking at.
I'm also thinking about the safety of them backing out of those spaces and getting really close to Balltown Road.
I mean, if this was going to be built from scratch, I think we could be like, not really a great idea. But because it's existing and it has been that way for a really long time, it's a little bit different.
But aren't we allowed to fix our to make it more aesthetically pleasing and to fix our errors of our past? Because, I mean, I mean, because definitely Clark is right. I mean, we should make it better than it is, you know, even if it takes a little bit more time, you know, but.
Yeah. Well, and I think, yes, if you have the chance to do a better job, you definitely can. And I think that as long as, you know, like, I would say that it would be the CAC's job to recommend kind of the full stop, like, this is the best that you could do. And then, I mean, the applicant's not on the line, so he can't talk to you about, you know, what the finances would be and, you know, where his breaking point is on this project and blah, blah, blah. But if you guys wanted to say, like, this is really what should happen, you can send that to the planning board and then they can balance that with the applicant and either, you know, stand fast or do some kind of a compromise in the middle. But yeah, you know, it's definitely the time to take a look at it and really figure out what is the best that it could be.
So I agree with Clark, and I think that we should assess this and try to make it the best that we can make it. And, you know, the most they can say is no.
What would you like to see? What would you like to see? What does that mean? The best it can be?
Well, I mean, I just, you know, like to, you know, maybe push it back farther. So to me, you know, I mean, I'm no landscape expert, and but when you're coming in from, you know, you'll come in one way. You know, if it's a U, you know, and those parking spaces, is the entrance to the building in the front only, or is there
Each apartment unit will have its own door, and they're kind of spread throughout the building. So there's one here, and then there's at least 4 along here, and then there may be one over here.
Yeah, Laura, if you show the other drawing, he actually has sidewalks in there from the existing building. And I talked to him about this, and he was going to sort of keep the doors in somewhat the same place. Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at.
So the minimum, right? You could put 2 parking spaces for that, you know, for that spot that is on, you know, for that door on the, you know, I'm looking at it the left-hand side, and then, you know, shift can you shift a little bit of the parking farther, you know, down so that it's, you know, less from the road? So originally they were gonna he was only, how many, he was gonna have, you said 3 parking spots on the, when you,
There's 4, I think, on this one. Great.
yeah, so could you just make that, can you just make it 2? And put the rest on the other side, or is that not okay? I didn't walk the property, so I mean, I've driven by it a million times on my way driving over, and I've never loved the layout of it, but I don't know what is too much. So, and yeah.
I mean, I feel like it would be better that way. I don't, again, because the applicant's not here. And I know I did bring that up with him, like, but we could certainly suggest that the best configuration would be to remove more parking spots along Belltown Road and put them more along here.
Yeah, from my perspective, I parked when I visited the site on the north side, which would be the top of the page, that parking space where the little dot is or the mark is in. So I guess it's 2 in from where he's read, where he's going to remove the other parking space. It's right in the middle there. Yeah, right there, Laura. And I felt that at that particular location, given the layout, that was a perfectly safe spot to pull in and pull out. I was not concerned at all about Balltown Road or any of the others. So, maybe the suggestion is he's taken out 1 spot, maybe he takes out a 2nd spot. Would that be acceptable?
2 more over here.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
Yes.
just or he could extend the he could put a 2nd one down on the south side and just extend the pavement a little bit. I don't know if that would be possible.
Yeah, or it'd be easier to just do it on the north side, just to add 2 more since he's taking the building down.
Yeah.
And then that way you have the 2 on the other side for that person with that door, and then the other ones are on the other side, and most of the other side, and they would have access to, it'd be closer to their building anyway, and that way you wouldn't have one person with 1 spot way over here, like not close to their doorway. Is that correct?
I think if
or-
you did what I was suggesting is you'd still have 3 spots on that south
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, because there's also that middle sidewalk that goes to the building too, so you can have 3 on the left, or whatever you
Yeah.
call it, the south side.
Okay, so
Okay,
So, so I've got that we would want to see adding landscaping or naturalization along the north of the new parking lot. That we would want to look at the islands and everything to make sure that it's having a more residential look, and that we would want to move 1 more layer of parking spots away from Balltown Road and to the north of the building, and add them to the north of the building.
okay, and then so my last thing is this, would somebody want just 1 spot do people want their 2 spots together, or do they care if 1 spot's there and 1 spot someplace else? If you know what I mean? So if you have 3, that means that 1 person has their spot split. I don't know if it actually makes a difference or not.
Typically, actually, you're not assigned a parking spot in an apartment building. Like, some of them you are, but most of them you're not.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought these were assigned. Okay. Okay. All right. That's much better. Thank you.
Okay, Laura, do you want to continue going through the questions or?
Can I just has on the IS,
Yep.
maybe silly question. So about the handicap parking. So is there just a requirement that when you have a building that you have to have 1 handicap parking spot? Because it just seems like putting it there, I don't know if it's necessarily gonna, help the person who might actually need a bigger. Is it just to have 1 larger one per code?
Yes, you would. It depends on the number of residences and, the use and occupancy or whatever. But I think in this instance, you're probably only required to have one. And then under building code, it's usually supposed to be like relatively close to the entrance and obviously evenly graded or handicap accessible from the spot all the way to the entrance. So, so he can really put it, he can really put it anywhere. The handicap parking space can change, but
Yeah, it's just hard, right, to know if someone's going to need it. Like, which would it? Oh, does he have one apartment that has more handicap access?
for sure you would have to be on the first floor because there's no elevator.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's building one specifically to be handicapped, but it would definitely be on the first floor. So then,
So okay,
you just kind of do your best with the handicap parking spaces. They're usually pretty close to a door is all you can really get with those.
so some of these are upstairs apartments. I guess I wasn't really following that either. So
Yeah, there's 3 on the upstairs and 3 on the downstairs.
okay.
Okay, do we have any other questions for Laura? Or? Okay, Laura, why don't you go through the questions?
So and this is again not for the use really anymore because we already took action on that. This is for the site plan that we're talking about. And will the proposed action create a material? And I think that you can answer these with the understanding that we're going to add those 3 conditions that I just called out. The landscaping naturalization along the north of the new parking lot, making a more residential look, and then moving more of those parking spaces away from Balltown Road. So we'll put all 3 of those at the end. But will the proposed action create a material conflict with adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? I'd probably say no, unless you guys had any notes or.
Well, we sort of, it is in conflict with the use, but it's a reduction in use, so it's okay. I don't know how we want to capture that.
Yeah, we're not talking about the use anymore, right? Because we actually captured that when we did the recommendation for the use. Yep. So we're really just looking at this as the allowable use now of 6 apartment units.
Yeah, no, you're right. I misspoke.
Because we made that really clear in our recommendation of the zoning board, which they took very thoroughly, and they totally adopted your recommendation at the zoning board meeting, by the way. They liked it a lot. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? So, no. Not really, because, right now he's got out in this plan, probably labeled 8, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's showing, somebody do the math, 22 parking spots. Although these ones are really terrible and I'm not sure that they ever could really be used, but you're getting now down to 12. So, it's less parking spots overall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, my cat just needs to have attention today, clearly. Okay. Wow. There you go. Oops. Okay, let's try. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? I think the landscaping helps with that and is important, but generally speaking, no.
No, I think.
And this one, it is not in a critical environmental area. Will the proposed action result in adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? Again, it's pretty equal if you're just looking at the way the parking lot's changing. I'd say no.
Laura, just to be sure, the bike path, this has no connection to the bike trail, right? There's no bike. The biking is a non-issue here.
I see a biker on Balltown Road occasionally. I'm amazed by them, but generally speaking, most people find biking along Balltown Road to be substantially difficult.
Yeah, I've never biked there. Yeah. Thank you.
My dad used to work at E1 and he would bike up that hill. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy? Or if it fails to incorporate reasonable, okay. So we actually talked about that the last one. He did say that he's going to use the LED features and all that, those kind of things we talked about before. Say no.
Laura, quick follow-up here. Like, so when a developer says, like, in a meeting such as ours, they're going to use the LED, you know, like, how much are they actually constrained to follow through on their promises? In other words, like, I'm asking, can they just blow us off?
They're constrained to follow through the promises if it's written as a condition of the resolution. If it's a very clear point that's made in the seeker, I think that it has some weight that was carried forward. You know, if it's just kind of a point that we discuss in the meeting but doesn't really get memorialized in any way, either with the seeker determination or with a resolution from the planning board, that's definitely harder to track. But commercial buildings like these, it's pretty hard for them not to do the LED lights because they have to do, under building code, they have to do a pretty substantial energy checklist form that they submit to the building department. So the state is pushing really hard for buildings to be built with a high level of energy conservation right now.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would even
Thank you.
say that it's going to be less anyway because he had a complete kennel there. He's removing buildings that he had to heat, light, and everything. And granted, you're only putting 3 more apartments in than what he already had. You know, so I think that's sort of a wash, regardless of what he does.
Mhm.
So, and then I don't think that this really impacts the public or the public water or wastewater. We looked at that one kind of the last time. And will it impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? So we just to make a note there that I think part of the reason that we were okay with the use variance moving forward is because, one, it was taking it from 2 non-conforming uses down to 1, but also that over time, although it's in the RP zone, it's developed around it as kind of residential. So I think that this is getting closer to like kind of the existing land use. But you guys mentioned it, if there's a way to make this building look as residential as possible, that's going to protect the aesthetic kind of resource of the area. I'll put that there. I'll put that as a note. Okay. Will the proposed action result in adverse change to natural resources? So again, we're really just losing 1 tree and asking for a lot more to be planted. So I'd probably say no.
Laura, like in the previous month's meeting, Alex said that like currently there is no plan to go into the pond, the back, etc.
Yeah, we have all that in our other secret recommendation. Yep.
So that's already in written form that they are supposed to follow, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we can just take that one and also incorporate that it was important to us that the mature vegetation remain and that they're not disturbing the pond. If you guys want, we can carry that language right back into this one.
I'd like that, but I also want to hear what other committee members have to say.
I agree. I think, just moving it forward to keeping it.
Yeah, the CEC felt that overall, not negative, but did note protecting the existing trees and pond was important to limiting the environmental impacts. And they wanted to note the importance of protecting the ponds and wetlands. So we can just carry that note right forward if you guys want.
I think we should.
Mm-hmm.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? I mean, the engineering will double check, but they felt like with the reduction of impervious surface that's coming from him taking down those accessory structures and the existing pavement, that adding those 4 additional spots is it's not going to negatively impact any of the flooding issues there. So, as long as his impervious is better, is like, he's actually going, less impervious overall. Should be all right.
Right, right, because he is taking out the parking spaces near Balltown as well on the little cutout.
Yeah. So overall,
Mhm.
you're probably, and in conjunction with the roofs and everything that are be taken out, like overall, you're ending up with less impervious. Because all of this square footage is going, this square footage is going, this square footage is going, that square footage is going, and all of that is more than what's being put over here. Especially, and we add those two there.
So the,
I think that was our
so
last
the,
one.
so the only thing I just wasn't clear if I heard you say in the beginning was just whether or not about it being, one way in and one way out.
Oh yeah,
or
let's add that. Do you guys want to add that?
Or just, or just make sure that it's wide enough. I don't know. You were there, Dart. Is it okay if they go in and out on both sides? Either,
Actually, I don't think that's a bad idea to make it go one way in and one way out necessarily. The way I think I would do it is I would have people exit on the south side so they could just make that right-hand turn.
Mhm.
And then the left-hand turn going into the building, you'd make the inlet on the north side. But
I think adding that note is good. I like it.
Okay. All right, great, thank you.
We'll put those 4 things in our recommendation then, in addition to the comments that we made when we were filling out the form.
Okay, do we have a motion to grant a recommendation for this property, for this use variance?
You're asking for a neg deck?
Yep.
I'll motion.
Any second?
I second.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna give this project a negative deck, subject to the comments that we've included in this form. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, unanimously passed. Laura, are you saying something? You're on mute.
Oh, I am? Can you
No,
hear me
no, we
now?
can hear you now.
Okay. Okay, so the next one's actually mine too. Oh, share my screen.
Okay,
again.
Laura, yep.
This is the improvements to Aqueduct Park. I think we've talked about them a couple of times before, and they were in your packet last month. When Rivers Ledge was going in, the developer, committed to putting in some additional trails, to taking down some of the trees that really needed to be taken down in that area. There's some ash trees that got hit early on with the emerald ash borer when it was coming through Niskayuna. And there's just a lot of opportunity to grow that park. Why is my screen doing this? I'm sorry. Come on. And do some improvements there. So they have a couple things that they've submitted to us. This is kind of an overall, what they want to do is create, a trailhead with stone dust trail along the park, develop overlook areas, picnic areas with pavilions, repurpose the historic aqueduct blocks so that people can see them and use them and walk on them and climb on them, and expand the parking lot because we do hope that this is going to increase use of the park over time. So these are like examples of what the trailhead and what potentially some of the pavilion areas would look like, with some historic signage, and then a stone dust trail. This is kind of like a preliminary concept. I can show you, there's a place in the park where it connects into Rivers Ledge that is required to have stairs because it's so steep. They've got stairs and a handicap ramp. And so some of the things that they would want to do with the aqueduct blocks so that people could use them, one of them would be to make them flush so that you can kind of walk along them as a path, which I'll show you how that looks in the plan. One of them is to kind of create them as actual like undulations in the ground where they have dirt built up to them so they look like retaining walls, and that kind of provides natural relief when you're walking around, and then you can also, like you can see, sit and use them. Then also have them be benches and just these little kind of piles that, you know, are probably attractive to children or whoever wants to play on them. So they have a couple treatments for the blocks. Then they have a list of the trees to be removed. And then this is just kind of an overall, just zooming. That's it. This is the plan for the trees that, and the only trees that can come down are the ones that are old or sick or leaning, or there's some way kind of less desirable. And then, so like you can see here, like here's a treatment where the blocks are stacked. Here's one of those little pavilion areas that they would want to put to overlook the river. Over here is, patio area. Over here is a pavilion with tables and then a large patio area. This is what I was talking to you about as a staircase. So this is the connection from that park to River's Ledge. And it has to have an ADA ramp. But they've got a lot of landscaping and planting in between. If you guys will zoom in quickly, like this is the Stone Dust Trail here, and it kind of crisscrosses with the buried flush adjacent historic stones here. They've also got a pretty aggressive replanting plan. Here, we were saying that a lot of people probably actually need a pavilion close to the parking spot. So like if they're having birthday parties or whatever they would want to do down there, they wouldn't have to go very far from their car. So this kind of is like the main one. And it's got the retaining walls and it's got a nice pavilion and a couple of play features, seating, and then a table. And this is the upgraded parking area. And then this is the planting plan. And the thing that I look at, I think there's an overall one. They've got red maple, river birch, redbud, dogwood. We'll have to look at the hemlock. I would love for them to plant hemlock, but that might not be the greatest thing right now. Sweet spire, spice bush, just all kinds of things that they want to put in there. And we can ask for more diversity and stuff like that if over time. This is just kind of like the first pass at the landscaping. And we were talking about kind of trying to make it like an arboretum where we plant some really interesting trees that we don't see a lot, so they can get big, and that can be kind of an attractive part of that. But you've got a lot of new plantings. I think their overall schedule that tells you how many you're actually going to get is here.
Well, I think this is great. Are they doing all of this, or is this the town working with River's Ledge to create all of that?
So they're doing all of it as long as it fits within their budget. They are required to do the Stone Dust Trail and take the trees down. And they also have this connector over here, This connects up to the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail. So they have to do all of that. And then they have allocated $250,000 to these park upgrades. If you add in like these patio areas and stuff, it might go a little bit over. So the town might do like a patio brick program, or we might just have them designed and then put them in later when we have a budget. Or they may just spring for them if they like them. But generally speaking, the developer's doing all this. The town's not doing any of it. It's just, we're the ones managing it and owning it. And in order to submit a permit to the Canal Corps, in order to be able to do all of this, we have to review it and go through all the processes that the Canal Corps would require of us. And one of them is obviously a seeker review. So that's why it's on here.
Okay, great. When are the apartments going to be completed?
Well, they wanted to get started this fall. It's basically winter now. So I would say they have a lot of utility work to do. And I think the plan is still, if they can, if it's a mild enough winter, they would like it to be winter work for their guys. As soon as they get 5 trillion crews out there and decide to do winter work, it's probably going to snow like, 10 feet, but I'd be okay with that. If they can, I think they want to work on the utilities all winter long, and then probably start the buildings in the spring and go from there. But I wouldn't expect to see like, you know, a full building for probably until probably like late next year.
Okay, so then are they planning to work on the trails after that?
Oh,
Or
they want to do this
simultaneously?
first.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Or in conjunction. They really want to get out there and start working on this park.
That's great.
I had a question about the history of this project, like how did it come to be? Like I know, you know, I've been a member of this committee for only like 5 or 6 months now. So, you know, like is there is there like a lot of support from the town people for a new park? Like what is the history of this project?
Well, it's not really a new park. I don't know if you can really see. You can sort of see. Right now, you can park your car here. There's a parking lot at the end. And the town mows a trail all the way to here. Do you see this little, like you probably can't actually see, there's a little dotted line.
So
And it's all grass.
which page is this, Laura? Is this page
This
56?
is page 74.
Page 74. Okay. Oh, okay, I got it.
And so Laura, is the current bike path, is that anywhere else on here, or you just said it's like on the left side that connects? Because I was just trying to envision where this, you know, if you're riding down the bike path, like what you would see.
This is the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail right here. This is where it crosses Aqueduct Road. If any of you guys are familiar with it, they put a new like blinky rapid beacon light over here. You know, and this is over here is the Rexford Bridge traffic circle. So this is where you cross Aqueduct Road on the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail, and then it bends along here. There used to be like a lot of junk cars and buses that was piled up along here that you'd be able to see from, I don't know if you guys remember that. It's actually been 2 or 3 years now. It's much nicer now that it's trees, but there used to be like a line of junk all along here. But this is the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail. This is what I'm telling you. Right here, they're building a connection down to this park. So, and potentially like a parking lot, another parking lot here. So there will be a multi-use path that connects into the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail and goes right down this side, hits here, and then gets into this, you know, this idea for the park. So it's not a new park. It's an improvement to an existing park. And this park, it actually keeps going. It's essentially the old canalway bed where they used to have a horse that would just draw the towpath. Like it would just draw the boats along. So you can kind of see it here. It might be small, but here's the Rexford Bridge, right? And this whole bit right here, all the way through here is the old canal bed. So they filled it in.
Yeah, I've actually hiked that path, and you know, I've biked that trail, and I've seen those old buses. It used to be like a kind of a junkyard for old automobiles and school buses and things like that. I guess where my concern is coming from is that this seems to be a major project, and many town residents seem not to have heard about it, and and if you look at the forestry report, you know, that's a loss of some 88 trees, and some of them like pretty big trees. So I know a lot of people are excited to have all this pavilion and all that, but right now I tend to be a little skeptical on. Like I couldn't find it in the community master plan, or it's a town master plan. You know, the thing that happens every 10 years.
I can speak to that.
Yeah,
this project has been going on for at least 5 years. I mean, it's gone through many reviews, but when the comprehensive plan was released, one of the objectives of the plan was to basically get rid of the Williams car dump, essentially. And originally, this whole area was zoned industrial, and we wanted to fit better with the New York State Canal region, or the Canal Zone, which wanted to develop the area and make it a recreational area and make it more commercially viable and move away from the industrial nature of it. So right after the plan was issued, which was around 2013, I'd say about 2 years later, the developer approached the town and actually proposed a luxury apartment complex and offered to remove and remediate the property. So there was a lot of hoops to go through. And basically they spent a lot of time remediating the property. And during that time, there were multiple reviews of this project. And it was actually this committee that really pushed them to make this parkland, and they were very amenable to that. And I think what you're seeing here is really the end product of a lot of work with the planning board, the CAC, and other committees within the town.
Okay.
I don't know, Laura, do you want to add any more to that? I feel like I've lived this project for a long time.
I mean, no, it was a junkyard, and like we didn't have any access to the river, and it's an unutilized section of the town of Niskayuna, and you are losing a lot of trees, but the whole area is actually kind of overrun with invasive species, and so they're talking about clearing it out and adding landscaping. And right now, if you go down there, those aqueduct blocks are literally just piles of rubble that nobody can see, and they're covered with vines, and nobody's appreciating them. And so like I think that we're trying to take something that has a lot of potential and allow people to see these blocks, allow them to walk on them and touch them, give people more access to the river, give people more connectivity to trails, lose a junkyard, and put very high-end apartment buildings, in a really nice section of town. So I don't see a lot of downsides, but there probably are.
I'm kind of excited
The
when I look at
junkyard
it.
is really problematic.
Well,
piece of property.
I think I should make my meaning a little clear. Like, I'm totally in for losing the junkyard and making it residential. That's not where my objection comes from. My objection comes on the other side, the improvements to the park. Right now there is a perfectly serviceable hiking trail, and like I said, I've hiked the trail very many times. To kind of change that from a wild space kind of character to something like lots of picnic tables and stonework where children can play on and so forth. Yes, it is nice, but I'm also noting here that it is a loss of wild space.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable observation. The way I look at it is that we have many different uses and many different residents that we have to provide open space to. So if I look at Lions Park, that's an example of a very developed space. But once you move away from Lions Park going towards, let's say, GE, it's very wild and natural. And I think that this here provides a more accessible part of the Mohawk for the residents to enjoy in the northwestern part of the town. I actually think there's a balance. I agree with you, Ashok. It's nice to keep everything wild, but I think you really do need a balance here, and I think this fulfills that.
Do we have any idea about how many people are enjoying the wild part of it with the hiking? Like, besides Ashok, like, are there a lot of hikers that are going to be like, whoa, really upset about that?
I have stats that we looked into when we did the comprehensive plan, and the stat I know is there's about 240,000 uses at Lions Park on the bike path.
Right, and it gets crowded over there. I know I go to Lions Park often, and it'd be nice to have another area with similar type of use.
I would say that this part of the bike path probably is not utilized nearly as much because you have that steep hill going down towards Balltown. I mean, down towards Aqueduct.
And the parking issue too, nowhere to park
Yeah,
really.
the park issue.
Yeah, and I like the historical aspect of it. You know, like when you go to the Rexford Bridge now, they have some old pictures of what the canal looked like and what that area looked like. So I'm kind of excited to learn more about the canal and like have a feeling for, you know, the historic stones and such. So I like that part.
It would be cool to have some sort of history, have a little plaque and explaining what that is.
Well, honestly, I like all of that too. I guess what I'm observing here is like let's take the town chicken code for instance. Like, it's a major change. So the town sought community input. There was a web survey that people could participate in. So was anything like that done, like some kind of surveying of the town public and saying, hey, Lions Park is awesome, it gets crowded. Like, is there a need for another space where there is, benches and whatnot? Like I just like I guess I want to be reassured that these are very expensive luxury apartments and Louise companies, they're pretty big. And is there like a strong support from the town for such a project?
I would say that when we did the comp plan last time, we sent out a survey to a lot of the residents. And one of the things we found was people like the open space, people like the parkland, people like the variety of recreation opportunities in the town. So, I mean, if you go to the comp plan, we spent a lot of time talking about open space and the need to utilize more of the Mohawk Bank and make it more accessible to the residents and provide a mix. And I think that's consistent. I mean, this was a piece of property that we discussed when we did the comp plan, and we never thought it would come to fruition because it was literally a dump and underutilized. And I think it's kind of remarkable that it's turned out this way. And certainly I would think that this is really meeting the goal of the plan and the Canal Corps area plan as well, which we looked at as well. I mean, there's a lot that's gone into this from a lot of different committees. So this really aligned quite well.
Okay, I rest my objections. Thank you for the clarification and the background information.
Yeah, no, I'm just passionate about this because we spent a lot of time struggling with this piece of property and stuff and with open space in the town. So,
well, and I hope you can understand my
yeah, no,
to have some clarification.
I agree. That's fine. Any other comments? Okay, Laura, do you want to? Shall we go through the process?
So will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? I think the answer to that is no, because our comprehensive plan specifically laid out that they wanted to see more access to the river. And this is one of those things. This is a big contributor to that, I think. Okay. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? I think you have to acknowledge that if you develop this park, there probably will be an increase in the use of the land. I don't know that it has negative environmental impacts because it's, parkland, but I think you should probably, we can mark no or small with, with a note that we do expect more people to be using the park with these improvements.
Yeah, I would say that would be in line with the the goal and the objectives of developing this property.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? So I think that generally speaking, when you put that much money into a park, it should help. But I don't know if you guys want to note, Ashok is noting, and it, I didn't hear any disagreement, that is currently a natural area that you're sort of converting to a more managed kind of parkland space. So, while it should help with the character, of the community in that it's giving people more open space to recreate and enjoy with tables and stuff, there would be some impact to the natural existing community.
Yeah, I would be willing to put it to loss of natural area, or however we want to word it.
So that would be like a small. So like these two here are both smalls, and I'll follow up with that when we're doing the not a critical. We don't have any critical environmental areas. Will the proposed action result in an average change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for transit, biking, or walkway? I would definitely say no, and I actually think it's kind of a positive change, because it's going to be connecting into the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail and give people more access to biking in that area and walking. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy? It's not really relevant. And public water and wastewater is also not relevant to this. They're not being added. The carry in, carry out park, the bathrooms are not part of this project. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, aesthetic resources? And again, I feel like the answer to that is no, and if anything, it improves them, because right now people really can't interact with these aqueduct blocks. They're just these piles of rubble, and if you bring them out and you put them in the ground and you let people touch them and sit on them and see them, I think it brings the whole thing a lot more to life, and we would be adding signage and stuff also that would increase the historic character of this area.
Yep, I agree.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? So we might also note here again that you're converting a natural area, and you are losing 88 trees, although like if you read that report, they really are all documented to have some kind of an issue. Canal Corps doesn't let you just take down any tree, and we will be replanting as much as possible, but there's still some impact. And then the other thing I do want to note, the understory is almost entirely honeysuckle and buckthorn. So it is natural, that does still support birds, but if we're able to remove those invasive species and then plant with things like that are on that planting list, like spice bush and sweet pepper bush and those kind of things, those are native. And so hopefully that would actually, over time create a much better and diverse habitat for birds and other things.
Since I'm new to this and, you guys are telling me this has been going for a number of years, has the Tree Council had a chance to weigh in on this?
Yeah, the Tree Council is actually like the lead agency on it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Did anybody want to add anything to that?
Regarding question 9, will the proposed action result in adverse change to natural resources, example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? I mean, if we clear a lot of wild space, it is an adverse change to flora and fauna, like the whatever creatures that live there, and you can say some of it is invasive species of tree, some of it is sick tree. But I also saw in the forestry report a large number of trees were removed because, close to construction site. But I also don't want to throw any monkey wrench on a project that many of you have worked hard over many years. So I'm comfortable with checking no if others strongly lean that way.
Or Laura, can we say that any any effect on some of those things are being mitigated or outweighed by improvements that are being done or something.
Yeah, we could definitely put a note in there that we do feel like that it's an adverse change to natural resources anytime you clear away existing vegetation and, you know, kind of wild areas. So it's very important to us when we're reviewing this that as many trees can be replanted as possible, that you're increasing the diversity of trees as much as possible, that you're using, you know, native plants and trying to reestablish that understory as much as possible so that you're mitigating the adverse impacts that are coming as much as possible with the removal of the wild areas.
And you said, would it be possible to request like small pollinator-friendly meadows with signage, like something that we have been working on in other places?
What does the committee think?
So I'm just speaking for myself. I looked at this, but I was like overwhelmed by the sheer number of the plants and like where they were going to go. And I can honestly say I didn't like dive like wholeheartedly into it. So I didn't know if we were going to, you know, besides doing this, if we were going to have another go around at some and having input, you know, but you know, I definitely would be, you know, I when I looked at it, I was, you know, trying to figure out, you know, is there places, you know, that of where it is structured that you could, you know, put like a bat houses or, you know, or any of the things that, you know, help pollinate, you know, vegetation, like, you know, yeah. Yeah, sorry. I'm struggling tonight. I don't know why. I'm just having a hard time. I don't know if it's because of all the Zooms, but sorry.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's an important note too, like to see if we can add, you know, specific habitat or bat houses or anything we can do to cultivate like lots of different uses of the park. It doesn't have to be just for humans.
Yeah, that's you know, mitigate some of the issues mentioned in item 9.
I guess what I'm saying is that I didn't look thoroughly enough at the, you know, the structure, at the design of where everything was being placed, you know, and I didn't realize that, you know, they had a certain amount of money and then when they were done, that was going to be it. So I didn't look to say, oh, you know, this would be a really good area, you know, to put, you know, a birdhouse, or this is a great place for a bat, or, you know, these are species that, you know, would be great cross pollinators. So let's make sure we plant those, that kind of like thought process into it. So I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. So will we have another chance, you know, to address those issues? Or is
I think the developer. Go ahead, Laura.
They're not building it overnight. But in order to even get the permit to get in there and start working on it, you have to do the secret determination, which is generally speaking, you're saying that this general plan is okay. It doesn't mean that we couldn't go in there and be like, yeah, this would be really good if you move that over a little and put a pollinator field here and, you know, put up some bat houses around the field and, you know, work on, you know, I don't really want to see probably red maples. I love them. They're beautiful, but we probably really should be focusing on other trees right now. So yeah, we can still tweak it, but you have to be okay with the overall plan when you're going through with the seeker.
Okay.
The other thing I would say is that this is going to be town parkland, and the town or organizations within the town could put specific bat houses or designate certain areas to cultivate in certain ways, I would think.
Okay, I like the general overall plan because it is very, difficult to access. And I think that I like the idea of connecting,
So
connecting
what I would
those.
suggest we do is that we put a comment saying that the park should contain natural habitats where appropriate. And, by putting that in, it sort of puts the developer, makes the developer aware of that's what, this committee thinks they should do. And at the same time, it also gives objectives to the town if the developer doesn't have enough funds to complete the park as drawn.
I'm fine with that. I think it's a nice plan, nice compromise.
I agree.
Okay. Tina, you're okay with it? We haven't heard a lot from you tonight. Okay. Jeannie?
Yep.
Okay. I think I've heard from everybody else. We've heard. Amanda.
Oh, Amanda.
You're on mute, but
Yeah, I'm good. I think like was said before, a lot of thought was put into the general gist of this plan, and I'm involved with the tree council also, so we've had a good look at this and discussed it quite a bit. So I think like doing the little things like bat houses and things like that are great ideas. And maybe that's something that can be done, but not like as a prerequisite to approving this. We can kind of go
Right.
forward.
Yeah, and I imagine, like what Dart was saying, that, we can add to it as the years go on as well, and come up with projects. Even the schools can take on something if they want to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy, did you have anything you wanted to add, or?
No, I'm good with it, especially with the comments that you're attaching. That's fine.
Okay.
I think it's a nice improvement.
Okay, so I think doesn't really add an increase in flooding or problems. It's a park right next to the river. And then I don't think it adds any hazard to environmental resources or human health. So really like the big commenters right here. And then, up here, the two, we'll add in those comments that we talked about here. Yeah.
Okay. So, would the committee like to make a recommendation? Would someone make the recommendation?
I'll make the recommendation for approval, the negative deck.
Okay.
I'll second.
I'd like to say, okay, go ahead, Tina, second it.
I'll second, since you haven't heard from me.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. With the comments that we've included, just discussed. Okay. We have one more EAF to consider, and that is 2020-10, 2207, 2209 Knott Street, and it's for a special use permit. And Laura, would you like to tell us about it?
Thomas Nicky, I think was gonna try, but I don't see him on the meeting. Thomas, are you here? Okay. So this is the old, so like right next to the pharmacy on the corner of the Knott Street Co-op Plaza is the pharmacy, and then there's kind of two. Pull this up for you guys. There's two barbershops. One was a barbershop and one was a salon that recently went out of business, and the owner of the building is actually the pharmacy guy, and he got together with the a guy who already is a very successful businessman, has quite a few restaurants and bars in the Albany and Schenectady area. And he lives like a block or two away from this place and is very interested in bringing some life back to the town center overlay district there, open up a restaurant, give people a place to come and get good food. He's very, I would say, like, Clark, jump in here. He seems to be very proud of his food, and he's expecting, like, even though it's the middle of COVID and everybody's like, who would open up a restaurant in the middle of COVID? Really feels like people have to eat, and that his food, you know, is good, and that people would like to do takeout during COVID times, and then, you know, can slowly grow from there. But he really wanted to, you know, focus on feeding people and, you know, eventually giving people a place to come and hang out in the neighborhood. So this is the pharmacy spot right here. And this is like the old salon that was right next to the pharmacy facing Knott Street. And then this is the, this is the barbershop. And this is a salon that's facing Clifton Park Drive here. And so the restaurant would essentially kind of wrap around in an L, wrap that around that pharmacy. There's a little takeout window for COVID times, so that you can come and get your food, not go inside the restaurant. I've seen a lot of restaurants do that. Like the Hungry Chicken did that for a long time, so that people have limited contact but can still pick up their food. This here would be a bar, and it's like a reused bar, a reclaimed bar that he found from somewhere. It was pretty historical. He had shown me a picture of it. You know, these would just be the normal seats. He'd upgrade the bathroom. Here's the kitchen. And then this would be another kind of section of seat. There is a bit of elevation difference between the two sections of the restaurant. So there are stairs right here. But I think, Clark, jump in if I'm wrong here. Like, this is all one floor. So, like, I think this would be the handicap entrance. And you can get everything that you need down here, I believe.
Yes, yeah, Laura's right. The person doing this has, I guess he owns a comedy club in Saratoga, and he owns a restaurant in Albany, I believe. So he's very experienced, you know, really seems to know what he's doing. And he grew up in Niskuna, lives in the area, and is very interested in having a neighborhood restaurant / bar that, you know, he plans on closing at 11 o'clock. It's not going to be open until 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. So he very much views it as a neighborhood restaurant that, you know, could become a key place within the town center overlay district.
The
And
people.
we've walked this site. The area in the back that Laura mentioned that includes the takeout window, that's a pretty decent sized area that was Dave's beauty salon. So that's a pretty reasonably sized area, but this will still be a relatively small restaurant.
Hours of operation are in here. Like Clark said, it's really not open particularly late. 10 a.m. Monday through Thursday, 11 a.m. Friday, Saturday, 10 p.m. for closing, 11 p.m. Friday, Saturdays, and then Sunday, 10 p.m. again. Mostly on the weekends, he's got a little bit early hours for breakfast, brunch, but mostly I'd say dinner, because he wouldn't open up till 3. And like they're talking about shared parking for that plaza, because it's a mixed use plaza, so a restaurant in a mixed use plaza, you want that shared parking. And he's saying, a lot of the places in the plaza are winding down or closing when the restaurant would really be winding up. So it's a good use of shared parking space so no really exterior changes to the site. In so much as, he'd put up a new sign and he would like to do some facade upgrades, but there's, it's not a new building. So it's really just a tenant change. It triggers a special use permit just because it's a restaurant, which is, why you guys would see it as a seeker, but not a lot of physical changes to the building. I think the environmental impacts that you'd really be looking at, would be just parking. I don't know, whatever questions you guys have on it.
There's not going to be any outdoor dining, right? Because it's all going to be indoors.
It is all intended to be indoors right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too.
Goes through, if the Knott Street Improvement Project goes through and there is a big curb that gets added to the outside and he has some ability to put a table outside, if he can bring some life to the street, I think he would. But there isn't really space right now, and it's not, his model isn't dependent on having outdoor seating.
Okay. Well, I was asking for, I mean, it'd be great to have outdoor seating, but just for noise purposes, if they're open until 11 o'clock at night and if people are sitting outside, then there are houses across the street. I was thinking about that. And it's funny, I didn't know about this project, but my friend and I have been for years saying, if Lang Pharmacy ever goes out of business, we're going to buy it and turn it into a cafe. So I think this is a great idea.
He's talking about like that takeout window could also serve ice cream in the summers, just walk up kids in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
He could do a lot with that space. It's like right in that neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Because
think-
so many people walk. Mhm.
Yeah, I think the neighbors will be very excited to have that, right?
Yeah.
Because, yeah. So do we know what restaurant he owns in Albany? So we can kind of be like, oh yeah, it's very good, right? He says he serves very good food, but we would like to know.
Look it up right now.
We can find that out for you, definitely. I'll find that out.
There's a couple of them, it seems like, right, Clark? There's a couple of them.
Yeah, and I'll get the names for you. Definitely.
So I just have a question. My concern is just like, would be like venting for the hoods and anything that's going to run that would be loud, that would be vented to the exterior, for restaurants, just to make sure that it's not super loud.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we can make a note that, the noise is something we would want the planning board to pay attention to, both with if there's ever outdoor seating. And then I call it that sort of like HVAC, heating, venting, just like where's all of that going to be? If it's on the roof and it's covered, it's typically better. If you put it on the ground, it can get louder. So understanding where those systems are and making sure that they're quiet.
Yeah, and then
would
I would just,
imagine.
oops,
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead, Jude.
I was just, and also, as far as like garbage pickup, when and where that would happen in relationship to other garbage pickups that's, done for those other businesses, because that would require, restaurants tend to have pick up more, need, otherwise they bring animals. So.
True.
Yeah, I was just going to add to your comment. I think like the kitchen would probably need some ventilation, and that's in that, the upper right-hand corner there. And isn't there an alley there, Laura, right now? Isn't that the
Back
alley?
here. Back
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
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 But the other thing I would add is, I don't know if he's going to have to put some additional, this is a 2-story building? Yeah. There's apartments above it?
There was an apartment, but nobody's living there now, and he doesn't have any intent of making it apartment again. I guess it's storage for the pharmacy.
Yeah, that's fine. The only comment I would make is if he has to put any roof air conditioning on, that it be pulled back from the street so you don't see it, to preserve
So keep
the
quiet and
aesthetic.
an aesthetic.
Yeah, so I just think that the ventilation is really, really important, for whatever, if he's going to run like fryers and stuff like that, because, that you just need to be concerned. Yeah, just good ventilation.
Because I was like, you need a grease trap and stuff when you really get into fryers. And he didn't seem to be a deep fried food type of deal. He didn't think he would need a huge grease trap. So, but yeah, the ventilation is still a really big deal. So definitely think that that's a great note. And then also coordinating garbage pickup and making sure that it has limited impact to the neighbors.
Are the neighbors aware of this project? Do they know it's coming?
Yeah, the planning board mailed out everybody within 200 feet. And the applicant has been walking around and talking to every single person. I believe the last time I talked to him, he had 60 signatures in support. I know that we did hear at the planning board, there were some residents on Via Del Mar that were concerned about overflow parking on Via Del Mar. He does not feel like that is going to be an issue, again, because it's the shared parking and it's just kind of a swap of hours. And he would do whatever he could to limit, you know, any impacts. He doesn't think that on-street parking is ever really going to be a problem. But he's reaching out to the Via Del Mar people this week just to get a sense of where they're coming from and see if he can address what their concerns are as well. But he's really reached out to as many people as he possibly could, you know, on this, like to the northwest of the site. And now he's doing the south out.
And Ashok, there's a public hearing scheduled for Monday.
Oh, sorry.
There's a public hearing scheduled for Monday at the planning board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So the only other thing I would just say is I mean, you can obviously figure out, you know, the parking spaces that he's gonna, you know, need or use, you know, simply by how many, you know, what the seating is in here, and you can just do the math on what you have outside and what it might look like in the, you know, do worst case scenario with, you know, snow plow and snow and where that's going to go and where people are going to, you know, because I'm sure that, you know, if he expands this and he decides that that upstairs is going to be, you know, like a great place, you know, to have a Christmas party and a banquet, and then you're going to have, you know, more people. I mean, not that that's what it will be or anything, but I don't know what his seating is on the inside. So
I think it's 30 seats, but you wouldn't be able to expand to the upstairs without another site plan review by the planning board. Yeah.
Okay, so
you'd
30.
be limited. Yeah, so you'd be limited in capacity to what this proposal is. I think it's 30.
So
Yeah,
30.
I'm pretty sure it is 30, Laura.
All right, so 30. I mean, that's a good size. That's a good size number of people. So are they going to be able to? So are they going to use the co-op parking across the street?
We told him he's not. I mean, he can't factor that into what he has now, but you really can't, because the parking that surrounds the building, especially in the county right of way, is shared parking that nobody owns. It's technically in the county right of way. They and then they have the wraparound parking on Crescent Ave because they're on the corner. So there's a lot more parking here. Like, we've seen a couple ideas for a restaurant, like I think right adjacent to the co-op, and this has been tough because there's occupied apartment units, so they need the parking spaces in the back because that's where the residents live. And so then you're really only looking at a small number of parking spaces in the front that would not necessarily be allocated, but could kind of be considered. But in this case, because this building has this long space along Clifton Park, you have a whole lot more parking spaces here than you do like for these guys. So they have, you know, 4 in front, like 12 over here. But theoretically, these are all kind of shared right in here. So if you have enough, you know, here and here, would people end up parking in the co-op parking spot at night? You know, I'm not sure. I'm sure the co-op probably wouldn't really appreciate that. But it probably wouldn't be the, you know, the end of the world. But I don't think that they're, you know, if there's spaces over here, they're certainly not going to park over here. The idea is to park them all along in these shared parking spots here and here.
Yeah, I would probably just say, you know, I mean, you're going to have your high, you know, 6 to 7 o'clock, you know, on a Friday or Saturday night, and then whatever else is open, and you're going to need, you know,
Right.
two, you know, 2 cooks, a busboy, you know what I mean? So anyways,
Right, and then will people park on the residential parking areas in front of people's houses at all? I know like sometimes the high school students would do that and they had to put up signs.
I mean, that's generally speaking discouraged, but it's not illegal. So, I mean, it could happen occasionally, but it's not like a normal thing that happens over there. I think the high schoolers did do that on Crescent, and they did put up signs on Crescent, and they're funny. They're like, you can't park between like school hours. It's like 9 a.m. to like 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Something on that street. Yeah, they're funny.
So it's
Laura,
a,
you
it's
might
well-
want to pull up from the planning board. He submitted a parking analysis. I think there are some requirements that come right out of the code for how much parking he has to show. And he submitted some calculations on that.
Yeah, these are his calculations for parking. And he was basically figuring out the multi-use plaza in its entirety with the co-op and, you know, his restaurant and everything all together. If you break it down, what he needs per our code is actually just 7 parking spots.
okay. All right. I'm good with that.
I think that the hope is, and obviously, like we would have to monitor it, would be because it's so close to neighborhoods, and we're trying to make the whole area more walkable, that it would invite people to walk there. I mean, I think that's really the hope, is that people wouldn't need to drive and park there. Hopefully.
Yeah, that would be great.
Hey, Laura, sorry to derail us for a second, but I've forgotten the code. What are the number of parking spots required based off of again?
It's just the square footage of what he's taking over divided by, I think, probably 200.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah.
It just seems a little odd with a 30-seat restaurant. He only needs 7 parking places. But
That's because it's that's again, like, so a normal restaurant, if it was a standalone, like an Applebee's or whatever, and they were creating their own parking lot, they would have a much more stringent parking requirement. But because the restaurant is embedded in a mixed use plaza, then it isn't required to have that high stringent number of parking spaces, because all of those parking spaces in the surrounding area are shared by each of the uses. Yeah. Did anybody have any more questions? We're gonna look at this one.
So-
Where did it go? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dirt.
No, I was just gonna ask the committee if they you wanted you would prefer a decision tonight on this?
I think we actually we don't have to, but it would definitely be good because of the timing for the. If we didn't, it would delay the project substantially.
So let me ask the committee, is the committee prepared to make a decision on this project?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, then let's go through the process then.
Okay, so will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? I wouldn't think so, because the town center overlay district is trying to attract, you know, life and businesses.
Yep.
It's better than vacant spaces. And it's not like it's asking for a use variance or any variation from the code. It's just a special use permit, which is technically an allowable use. It just has a higher level of scrutiny. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? I would probably put small, because I think that a restaurant does probably attract a little bit more people than a barber shop. That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, and it would be different times and stuff. So yeah, I think it would probably change it a little bit.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? I would say no, but I think that it's important to note that we have concerns about the noise, and so we would want, any outdoor seating to be checked. Again, that's where we could talk about the heating, cooling, venting, keep quiet and aesthetically
Mhm.
pleasing, and make sure that, we're coordinating garbage pickup and that it has a limited impact to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I would say that's good.
No critical environmental areas. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? So I don't think that it really impacts biking and walking, but we could just note, that we would discourage any on-street parking, and so would want the planning board to just, do an extra level of scrutiny on the parking there. Okay. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy or fail to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? Again, that it's funny that the question's in there because it's so regulated by building permit. But we could definitely just put in a note in there, like we did, on the apartment building, to choose LEDs and do those energy saving things that are better for the earth.
Yep, that sounds appropriate.
And then will the proposed action impact existing public water or public wastewater? The only thing that we noted in our site visit on this was that this is what we talked about just a second ago, was that, if he does have those deep fryers and stuff, he may have to install a grease trap because you can't add all of that stuff to the sewer. But that would be worked out with the engineering department ahead of time.
Yeah, I think, can I just, so even if you don't have a deep fryer, even if
You'll have
you're,
to have a grease trap.
agree, you want a grease trap.
No, you absolutely have to. It's just the size. Sometimes you
Okay.
can put them inside if it's, it depends on, how big the kitchen are and how
Yeah.
many fires they have and stuff like that. And depends on the type of food. But yeah, sometimes it can just be an inside grease trap and sometimes it has to be an inside and an outside grease trap.
Okay.
But they always have to have a grease trap. There's no question. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of a historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resource? Aside from, we do want the architectural review board to help with any facade changes, but I don't really think there's a whole lot of impact there.
I would agree.
And then proposed action result in adverse change to natural resources. There's really nothing that's being changed here. If we can get him to plant some plants somewhere, that'd be great. It's a giant sea of asphalt. Giant sea of asphalt. The
Planners would be really nice.
Really not changing. Yeah, right.
And also, even, that's one of the things, aesthetically, even on that back side, just hanging them on the, on the wall, on the wall, even if you just hang them on the wall.
Yeah, just add some green somewhere. I'll put a note for that.
We would really like the architectural review board to look at that whole little plot, not only that shop, but the whole plaza area, because if the Knott Street improvement does come through, that's going to look all nice and spit and polished new. And I think the facades are going to look even more aged, so.
Yeah. So can I just ask another quick question? So this is, shared space. And so what does it, who maintains who does the plowing, I guess, for that? Say it snows, who plows and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I believe from discussions we had with the project on 2220 Crescent with Gail King, that's privately done, that all of those shops in that little plaza contract together to have their snow removed from their parking areas.
Okay, because that could definitely, that could definitely impact if somebody, is coming to, if they're coming, to say do the whole area, but they're used to coming at, 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night when, everything seems to be shut down and then we have a restaurant. It's just a detail that would need to be worked out, but it is just, you know,
Yeah, that's something that has come up at the planning board, that I think anyone who has proposed doing anything different in that plaza, I believe it basically shuts down at 8 PM now. Maybe the co-op shuts down at 8. So he would be the latest business open by several hours there, so.
okay, just as long as it's noted, so that's all that matters.
Laura, I think you're on mute.
Laura, you're on mute, I think.
We can't hear you.
It's not showing as being on mute. We just can't hear you.
No. She turned her sound way down.
I was wondering why we couldn't hear her type too, so.
Still can't hear you.
No.
I think you have a microphone malfunction or something.
She's left. Okay, she's coming. There she is. Still can't hear you, Laura. Oh, now you're
You're
muted.
muted.
Now you're muted.
Well, you're on mute now. Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Yay.
okay. I don't know
There
what
you are.
happened. That's so weird. All right. Okay. So sorry, I was talking away and nobody could hear me. I thought that those were all really good things. So I would putting in planters would be really nice, or add some green space if it's possible. Coordinate snow removal and make sure that's noted by the planning board. Like a lot of times tenant changes are pretty simple, but this one definitely needs to note those things. It's really important. But I think that the last question, even though I stopped sharing my screen, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources and human health? That's probably a no. It's a
Yeah.
restaurant. So, okay. So that's all I have for that. So the notes I have, I think just summarize quickly: the noise, outdoor seating, HVAC, venting, garbage pickup, any kind of planters or green space to make things more residential and inviting, and then snow removal, and then discouraging the off-street parking and taking a hard look at where those cars can go.
And it looks like from the application, it's going to be a bar, like a bar and restaurant, because they're calling it your bar.
I mean, that one section, the section that's closer to Knott Street, it has a big bar in it. It's like Tai Tai. I don't know if you guys have ever gone into Tai Tai. Like one whole section of that wall is a bar. It's similar to this.
Okay. With the comments that Laura read, do we want to make a motion?
Yes, motion for neg deck.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay. The motion has carried unanimously.
That was a lot of work tonight, guys.
Ay, ay, ay.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a long one.
It was. Discussion items.
Okay, so I'll go really quickly through these. The pesticide outreach, Ellen, you can jump in here. We've gone through a couple iterations of the sign. The town boards looked at it. We had to have a discussion on how to pay for the signs. I do think that we can order a decent number of them. I think we honed in on 500, right, Ellen? Is that what we decided? And then the one thing that we want to change with the pledge is just to see if we can offset the cost, because the town is just really struggling budget wise right now. Is not require it, but basically say at the bottom, consider donating for the cost of fabricating the signs. And then if somebody wanted more than one, because they're kind of small and some people might live on corner lots and want to put a couple out, they would definitely have to pay if they wanted more than one.
Yeah, I think we should just, it's one, and we should say, and we can easily put like donations, accepted, or yeah.
The cost of the sign, we'll just put that at the bottom.
Yeah. How'd we do with the, okay.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
How much did the signs cost? I missed that.
So we're not exactly sure how much they cost yet because, I mean, I have a bid for a small amount, and I think they're like, I think the original was like $3, but I think as we go up in quantity, we were going to get the pricing that I just didn't want to go back to them until I had the website. I wanted it to be like a one and done deal. So I haven't gone back to them. I was waiting for the website.
So a $5
finale.
donation would probably cover a good amount of it then?
Yeah.
If not all?
Yeah.
That's more.
Yeah.
Like if the signs end up costing, like $2.70, we might say either we could decide consider donating $2 for the cost of the sign or consider donating $3 for the cost of the sign. It really doesn't need to be a for-profit program. It would just help to fill the hole that the town's creating a little bit by buying the sign. So
Well, we could take the proceeds and apply it to, people who didn't pay. I think not everybody's going to pay. I think most people would. gladly pay.
so we could just say consider, like, if it's going to cost us $2.75 to make it, we could say consider donating $3 for the cost of the sign, and that way it should cover. I think most people, like anybody I've talked to, has been really excited about the program and would be more than willing to pay a little bit to have the sign and be proud of not using pesticides on their lawn.
Yeah, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
we can use all the proceeds to start our composting.
Yeah, well, we could say consider donating $5. I mean, do you think $5 is too high? I don't know.
No.
Do you think so?
Pay that, yeah, easy.
Yeah, I mean,
can
you're
look
asking for a donation, a suggested donation. I think 5's perfect.
Yeah.
And then, some people wouldn't and some people would, and that could
Right.
help us start like a composting program or something.
Right. Or buy
I think if you-
wildflowers.
If you cast
We
it
gotta
as
talk about that.
if you cast it as a suggestion, then I think if somebody wants to pay $2, they'll pay $2.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Sounds good to me. So the only thing I really need is I just need the website if we've decided on the website.
Yeah, so the only question with the website is we can shorten it to literally, it has to have www.niskuna.org, but it can literally just be that /pesticide free pledge. Or if you guys wanted, we could put CAC before then so that, there's a kind of recognition that the CAC is responsible for the program. But if you type out the entire Conservation Advisory Council, the website gets really long. So I guess the question is, do we want it to be bigger and just say pesticide free pledge? Or do we want to have the CAC initials in there? It doesn't add a whole lot. I just don't think that we can do the entire Conservation Advisory Council. I'm not sure how many people really know what CAC stands for. But, I mean, it's entirely up to you guys.
So
I don't think we need it.
I have a question on that. So if we had any other things that we wanted to post, would we put it under a CAC? I mean, that's the only reason I would think you'd want to do that.
My IT wizard says that basically, aside from the www.niskuna.org, like our website has the flexibility capability to let us put anything that you want after it.
Yeah, no, I was just saying
Sure.
if we had
On the website, but you can completely.
if you had part of the name with the CAC in it, then if you wanted to have something with LOMO or something, it would be niskuna.org/CAC/LOMO. It would be a way that if somebody was interested in what was going on with the CAC, they could just tag
So-
CAC. onto
Is this
it.
for the signs that people are putting on their lawns? Is that what we're talking about?
Trying to make the
You want
website
to-
small so you can read it, or smaller so you can read it.
Yeah.
No. Can you do a QR code or you don't want to do that? Or you want to have the name on there? Is that why? See what?
So I think that with the problem with the QR code is that if they were on their property, then then coming up to the property, then coming close to their house to scan a QR code,
Yeah.
and so whereas if it just said the name of the website, it just said pesticide free pledge. I mean, it's tiny anyways. So I think if it starts a conversation, that's what it's going to start. And then the information is there as opposed to it being a QR code. And then you have to wonder what's there. That's
Yeah,
all.
I'm fine. Pesticide-free pledge.
Yeah, I think
something
the
people would
simpler the
remember.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll settle in then on that reps. I think I heard Kathy say she thought pesticide-free pledge was fine too. So that seems like a good majority. Ellen, let's go with just pesticide-free pledge and make the website bigger and more readable, and then get them printed.
Okay, I will do that tomorrow. I will send that out to him. I'll connect with you, Laura, tomorrow and work that out. Any other issues?
The Lomo Biodiversity Initiative. I just really want to thank all you guys who took the time to meet the residents out there. I completely forgot about the first meeting and you guys handled it beautifully. And like, oh my gosh, what an amazing summary. I'm so impressed with you guys. It was awesome. I think that you got the brunt of the people who are kind of worried about it because when Dara and Ashok and who else was out there with us? A couple of
I was there,
us.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, generally speaking, everybody that came to talk to us was fine. Like Barbara, Frank Barbera from Barbera Homes came. He just wanted to kind of understand where, if, you know, we could keep it mowed between the split rail fence and the road. And I felt like that was kind of a given. But yeah, I think that we got a lot more support. So what I'm thinking is, you know, clarifying that we would mow between the split rail fence and the road to keep that looking nice and neat for the neighborhood is really important. You know, carving out that one section to continue to be mowed, you know, to keep the adjacent neighbor happy is like no big deal. The only thing that we did notice when we were out there, and so I generally speak that we can get the neighbors on board. There are two things really. They would like to see wildflowers close to the split rail fence so that when they're walking up and down, it doesn't just look like long grass. It actually looks like a pollinator friendly field. Like we definitely got that comment. So if there's a way that we could get wildflowers in there, you know, like the plugs or whoever we can connect with, I think that would go a long way in helping people feel better. Like you had learned about scraggly grass if you interest, and you wouldn't have to do it the whole way, like probably just between like those planted trees and the split rail fence. If we just did a line of, you know, and then, you know, we could overseed with wildflowers in other places or whatever, but maybe putting plugs just along the front just to make it beautiful would be cool. People were okay with the path. The one thing that I did note when we were out there, and I can't remember if Kathy or whoever told me, there's clearly a Frisbee golf hole.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Right in the middle. So we talked about that a little bit at the highway committee. We might have to kind of change where the, you know, where the area is going to be, but there's still a big chunk that we can use. So I think getting wildflower areas and just finalizing the boundaries for spring is really our main goals on these. I thought the outreach went well.
Yeah, so we wouldn't make that a hazard for that particular Frisbee golf hole?
There's
I'm
actually
just
two. Because I went over and walked, and there's actually two. And by the way, I did read all you guys' notes. They were amazing, and I did read that people didn't really like the way that the wild flowers looked that the Girl Scouts planted. So I did go and look. That may just be a taste thing. It wasn't like they were wildly overgrown with burrs or anything. It was a natural meadow. People may just not like the look of a natural meadow. I didn't see anything horrendously wrong with the way that they had let the wildflowers grow over on that side of Blatnick Park. I mean,
excuse me, is that the area where the bird houses are? Sorry.
I went to it from a way that you probably wouldn't. I don't recommend people going to it. I mean, I walked to it just to check on it from where they pile all the leaves.
That's the way I did too, and I just was trying.
I didn't see any birdhouses there. Does anybody know if that's where the birdhouses are?
Okay.
No.
I don't know. I saw when I walked through there, I mean, I tried to walk that one trail that man said that they keep, you know, that is upkept. That one man said, you know, seems like they cut the wood when trees fall on it. And then I, you know, went back in there to look at all the, you know, the Frisbee golf things. And then I saw the big, you know, they had a whole bunch of bird houses that were in like a gully, and it seemed like that's where the flowers were, but they, you know, they were obviously past their prime. So I was just wondering if I was in the right spot or not at all.
So here's where all those piles are, And like you can actually see it on here. This little plot right here is where the Girl Scouts tilled all that land and put all the wildflowers, and they did come back pretty good. But they're letting this whole area be like a meadow, for sure. This is now like, this used to be
Okay.
kind of mowed. This is now like a big meadow. So it's sort of actually hard to see where the Girl Scout plot of wildflowers was. They're all in here.
Okay.
But like you could see, there's a decent amount of like goldenrods, and I think it probably is giant reed grass, but it could be cattails in here.
So I believe that to the left of the lake is where the birdhouses are, and because then you go up the hill towards the yeah, that's where the Frisbee golf is. So I was not in the right spot. Okay, all right. Thank you.
I mean, it's definitely wild. It may just be a personal preference takes on that. But anyway, I think that working on the informational signs, we're finalizing the boundaries to avoid the Frisbee golf holes. Because there's actually there's two. There's one that's like right here. There's one that's like right in here, but then there's also one in the forest over here. I was noticing a trail and I started walking down it, and then I realized it was a Frisbee golf hole, and I was like, whoa. And I turned around and there was a guy that was trying to like throw a Frisbee. And then I'm sure you guys have never noticed, but I have a scar like right here because I was standing in a Frisbee golf course once in Anchorage, Alaska, and got whompered, and yeah, so I got out of there pretty quickly.
So Laura, the next step is to redraw the places for the to redraw the boundaries for the meadow, and then what happens?
And then I think to try and is to the extent that we can secure some wildflowers that we could plant there if we can, through donations or whatever we can do. I don't think we have a whole lot of budget for it, but anything that we can do.
I can help. Like I can look into it to see if anybody would.
And then just getting those signs finalized.
So when you're doing that, I think it would, so in regards to those signs, I don't think that the bobolinks is a good thing to put on those signs after seeing all those people. I think that it should be really simple and like be more wildflowery and pollinator-ish.
Like the round one that has the bee on it?
Yeah, or something a little bit, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit, upper, not so juvenile.
I don't think it's juvenile, but yeah, I think like we had said, probably less words and like a bright picture, like more similar to like the bee one, because they definitely seem to be on board, but they didn't want it to be completely boring. They definitely wanted to see flowers mixed in there that, they could actually see bees and birds using.
Yeah, that was a feeling I got as well. And I don't know how many you thought we needed, but I thought even along that fence, you need maybe just less sign too, because I think, it sort
of speaks for itself if you can get it to grow right. But I did look at that grass because I saw that comment too, like to see like, if the grass there was like significantly different, or like crabgrass or whatever it was. Interesting. There's definitely some dry areas of grass. There's definitely some dry areas there. I was amazed at the terrain too. I did not realize that it was going to be so wavy and steep.
Yeah.
But I think that lends itself completely fine to Lomo. So.
Is it possible that we can get to the Lomo status by spring 2021?
Yeah, I think that's the goal. We talked about it even at Highway Committee this morning. Yep.
Okay.
I think the outreach was important, and it was good to have that feedback from the neighbors.
Absolutely.
We might even just do one more, like in the spring. I think we're good for now. We can finalize the map and then do, get everybody on board with what we're doing and see if we can get some wildflowers. And then, maybe we could do like a one spring letter saying, okay, like here's kind of, we've heard you, we changed our boundaries a little bit. We've added some wildflowers here and there, shrunk a couple places down, and this is what we're going to try now this spring. And then please give us your feedback as it's growing. And then, because I think some of the other concerns is look really scraggly. So we can just go and monitor it and see what it starts to look like.
Yeah, and you're also going to get feedback from all those golfers too.
I did see all the golf balls, but clearly not that many people are going in them and rescuing them now.
My husband says it's like hitting it into a pond. That's what happens when you do that.
That's what happens. Yeah. Okay. So, and then I know it's getting super late. What's the last one on here? Dart, help me. Oh, Kelts Farm update. Just real quickly, they are going to remove the stub of Windsor Drive and make that kind of like a little pocket park. And I think we talked about this before. We want to scoop up the lupins and potentially want to also make a Lomo Forever field portion of that and actually set that aside and designate it as well. So like Rosemary and the highway committee were very supportive of us doing the initiative there as well as the end of River Hill Boulevard. That one is kind of a little more simple because the wildflowers are already growing there. We're just going to protect it and come up with a plan for mowing it like once a year, whenever.
Wait, are you talking about another Lomo meadow?
Yeah.
A whole another one?
Yeah. Which has got a lot of support. Yeah.
Hold on to your hat there.
The Kelts Farm stuff. Oh, that is great. This is like unexpected good news.
That was their idea. That wasn't even my idea. They were like, this is going to make sense too. Why don't we just make this one also a Lomo and put the same sign up? And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Laura.
So, yeah.
Laura, I'm down to 2% on my battery, so
I think we're done. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm in a spot where I can't plug in anywhere, so just wanted to let you know that I might just like disappear at any moment here.
Yeah.
Looks like you wanted to add.
So
Anything you wanted to add to the reports before you go? Anything?
Yeah, I don't think so, no.
Okay. I'm done, Dart.
Dart, you're on mute, Dart.
Thank you. It's been a long day. It's not the first time I've been on today. Moving on, the planning department updates. Laura, do you have anything for us? Or
I was going to talk about, just drive by Ace Hardware. I think they're doing a lot of work there. A couple other places around, but just email me if you've got questions on something late.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody. This was a much longer meeting than others we've had, but we got through everything. And I motion that we adjourn for the evening.
Second.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay. Showing that no one's opposed to adjourning, I say we adjourn.
Night,
Good night,
everyone.
everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.